What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you'd like to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
While my power is amazing, it's all thanks to Mentor.
Yep, this great feat was achieved by lending Ramirez my super powerful magicules. You could call it a triumph of friendship.
Thanks to Ramirez, we could isolate the town from the outside world, and this was also only possible with Veldora's help. I honestly should thank them both.
Thank you, you two. You really helped a lot.
Really? Well, I guess so. You can praise us some more, you know?
She's right. You can praise us some more.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.
A bit of praise goes a long way, and this time I really owed them one. Despite being isolated in the labyrinth, you could still see the sky, and some of the inhabitants didn't even notice what had happened. They wouldn't witness any of the Imperial Army's violence, which I thought was absolutely wonderful.
But Rimuru, just keep this in mind.
Ramirez warned.
In the unlikely event that Mentor is defeated and the 100th floor gets conquered, the town will be ejected out of the labyrinth. It's an inevitable reaction to the strain it causes.
I see, we'll need to consider that as well. But that's if Veldora loses, right? If such a thing happened, the fate of the town would be the least of our worries.
In that nightmare scenario, it means we had become engaged in a battle that called for all our strength. No way we could afford to care about the town then.
Well, there's no way I would lose, anyway.
Right. We even have the Dungeon's Elite 10, so we don't have to worry about that.
Indeed, just as Ramirez said, I didn't anticipate Veldora partaking in any action, to begin with. Nevertheless, if push comes to shove.
If that time comes, we'll have Masayuki.
Huh? Wait a minute.
The person in question protested.
I have accepted your request of maintaining order because I think I might be able to do it. But for that situation, what is it that you think I could do?
Masayuki exclaimed that he had never even led an army, a feeling we could all sympathize with. Even Miles, who held Masayuki in very high regard, nodded in agreement.
Don't worry, Masayuki-kun.
I said.
I don't expect you to be able to command an army right now. I'm currently discussing this with Hinata. I asked her to send us an aide from the Holy Knight Order. I'm sure she'll grant my request, and if so, that person will help you as your second in command.
Oh, really? That's a relief.
One other thing. I'm putting you in charge of guarding the kids, so you'll be safe and sound. I mean you'll keep them safe and sound.
If it's Hiro-sama that will protect them, they couldn't be in better hands.
Of course.
Masayuki affirmed as he broke out in a cold sweat. He also knew that the kids could hold their own, so he understood that this was for his own protection. Besides, Chloe was going to be there. If the situation turned dire, then she would be there to protect Masayuki and the others. That concluded the important topics of this conference. We prepared the best we could, but who knows what will happen once the chips are down. And I wasn't without worry, myself. Chloe's memories of my death. Right now, there was someone in the Empire strong enough to kill me, there was no doubt about that. If that guy appeared, even the Dungeon's Elite 10 wouldn't be able to stop them. Wait, on the contrary.
Report. The Dungeon's Elite 10 are being used to expose the enemy's cards.
I figured. It seemed like Raphael-san's first priority was my safety. While that did put a smile on my face, I was also determined. No matter what, I would protect my friends. I would never let anyone get hurt in this stupid act called war. And on that note, I ended the meeting that day. From the looks of it, Masayuki had successfully persuaded the townsfolk. The scenario became something like, he reasoned with the demon lord and made him promise to protect the town.
Well done, hero! Our savior!
Masayuki had taken in the praise of the adventurers and immigrants, all with a perturbed look on his face. But even with that expression,
that worried crease Hiro-sama's brow is so handsome.
Despite pressing a sizable concession from the Demon Lord, Hiro Dono is still not satisfied.
Indeed. What a refined dignitary.
This town is protected by Hiro-sama, and with Demon Lord Rimuru to back him up, I have nothing to fear from the Empire's invasion.
Yeah. All will be well if we leave everything to him.
These one-sided interpretations did nothing to slow Masayuki's mounting popularity. All the while, his anguish went unnoticed in the public eye. As the townsfolk were peacefully going about their days, that fateful day had finally come. The Imperial Army made its appearance. The time of peace had come to an end, whisked away, like a midsummer night's dream. The war had finally begun.
Volume 12 Epilogue. The Emperor's Hegemony.
You're awake, Rudra.
The words were addressed to a man sat atop his throne, dressed in opulent clothing. The speaker, a beautiful, blue-haired woman, was the marshal, the one in charge of the meeting hall.
Yes. How did the meeting go?
We've decided to move forward with the expedition.
Thank you for your hard work. Did Gadra oppose the idea?
Yes, he did. The old man is very realistic. Weapons from otherworlders cannot rival the true dragons. There was no way he could not have known that, and it would be silly for him to assume otherwise.
That's obvious. Nevertheless, we must carry out this great expedition. Thou shalt know that I am the ruler of this world.
It's what I promised Guy, after all, Rudra whispered. Snapping back to reality, he turned and smiled pleasantly.
By the way, Velgrund, tell me, how do you think this expedition will go?
Velgrund, the name of one of the only 4 true dragons of this world. She was the symbol of flame, the crimson dragon that wielded blazing heat. She was a being even older than Storm Dragon Veldora, and immortal too. Her name was Scorch Dragon Velgrund. There was only one person with this name in the world. And it was this beauty who answered Rudra's question.
We will undoubtedly emerge victorious. We shall force the dwarves out of their hideout and crush that new demon lord's ego. I will also beat some sense into that lazy, dumb brother of mine and make Guy realize the ruler of this world is Ridra, you.
She was not a single bit hesitant about calling this name. Indeed, she was Velgrund, one of the strongest beings, a true dragon, Scorch Dragon Velgrund. Despite being in the presence of such a majestic being, Rudra continued in a friendly tone.
Is that so? That would be wonderful. Do you really think your brother will attack?
Of course he will, Ridra.
She answered immediately.
He will definitely show up. That kid likes to get in on the fun. However, I feel that he has yet to return to his prime after his seal was undone. I didn't detect any violent magical storm, like the ones that ravaged the lands in the past. In the past, I would have felt that aura from any corner of the earth, but now it seems to have disappeared completely. Perhaps his resurrection was incomplete?
In that case, perhaps my army has a chance against him.
That would be very fun indeed. That demon lord dares to bribe my foolish brother and deceive my dear niece. I will be sure to punish him properly.
At that, the two shared a conspiratorial smile. To Rudra and Velgrund, it did not matter whether the attack plan succeeded or not. Rudra was playing a game with Guy, and they had wagered the right to rule this world. This game didn't have any complicated rules. You simply had to use your pawns to overwhelm your opponent. The world was their board, monsters and humans their pawns. At first, Guy's pawns were monsters and Majins, while Rudra's were a portion of humanity. They had kept up this game, switching their pieces over the centuries. And now, the game was coming to a head, as the situation on both sides grew chaotic. Fundamentally, stealing pawns from each other was fair game. Not to mention, their strongest pawns were their partners, the true dragons. There was only one absolute rule in their game. They could only use the aforementioned pawns. In other words, as long as Guy and Rudra did not confront each other directly, they could do whatever they wanted. If this world were destroyed, naturally, the game would end. But neither of them wanted that, which was why certain preventative measures needed to be set in place. With that being said, there were certain wild cards in this game. These included the remaining true dragon, Veldora, and the primordial demons. These wild cards were not directly involved in the game. Whether they were turned into allies or enemies was entirely up to the players, Guy and Rudra. One of Guy's pawns, his ally, Demon Lord Leon, was held under constant pressure by John, the yellow primordial, in his domain. In the west, any reckless action could bring down the wrath of Violet, the violet primordial, who resided there. And in the east, there lurked Blanc, the white primordial. These demons were immensely powerful and immortal. It wasn't impossible to wipe them off the board, but it would require careful preparation. As opposed to suffering great casualties, they had a better chance negotiating with them and turning them into allies. It was the best solution. In order to turn the tide in his game with Guy, Rudra and Velgrund agreed that this was the right option. If Velgrund were to fight by herself, she could even eliminate Blanc. But this came at a cost and was bound to cause unimaginable damage to the surrounding area. In conclusion, fighting them wasn't a viable method. Apart from that, an error in their judgment showed itself. The Western nations had begun to act with their own ideals and logic. The native religion called Rumanism was born in the Western lands and gradually grew into the dominant monotheistic religion. Its authority was solid and unified the people of the West. They had already discovered the true identity of Rumanas as a demon lord, but it was all too late by then, because the religion had since taken root and wove itself into society. By the time Rudra gained complete control over the East, the West had begun unifying under a single banner. That was the point at which Guy and Rudra's game became locked in a stalemate.
Because of the active presence of the heroes Cronoa and Granbell, invading the West became unfeasible. They posed a huge hurdle for us. Had it not been for those meddling heroes, victory would have been yours a long time ago.
Not necessarily. My path to ruling the world will forever be fraught with intrigue. It's probably the trial Veldanava laid out for me. That guy's always been fond of pranks.
Yes, indeed. My elder brother really was a handful.
The two of them smiled as they took a moment to relish the nostalgia.
But the opportunity has arisen.
Rudra said.
All the necessary pawns are in place. I will grasp victory soon enough.
I shall checkmate Guy and Sister Velzard this time.
Guy has been waiting for an opportunity, too. If you and Veldora were to fight, surely he would jump at the chance.
Indeed, how annoying.
Velgrind replied.
Had that not been the case, I would have taken care of that child Veldora myself.
She was talking about the failure of the last expedition. Had Velgrind moved out, Veldora would not have posed a threat. On the flip side, this would have made them vulnerable to Guy. If Rudra were to use his strongest pawn, a true dragon, he needed to have everything prepared perfectly. And this was the perfect time to do so. Rudra's spies across the world had brought back all sorts of information.
Even though it's been a long time coming, the wait was worth it. Our biggest roadblock to invading the West has been removed.
The true identity of God Ruminas was Demon Lord Ruminas. With this knowledge, they could narrow down a ballpark estimate of her strength. Moreover, her Demon Lord double had died, and the 7 celestial sages had fallen too. Plus,
that grand bell, the roadblock, has passed away. The threat of the Western nations has been drastically reduced.
That is indeed the case. Those who dared to stand in my way have met their demise entirely on their own.
Both of them firmly believed that this had to be a divine revelation preceding Rudra's domination of the world.
By the way, Rudra, how are you doing?
Perfectly fine. My power, Army of Angels, Armageddon, can be activated at any time.
Armageddon was Rudra's ultimate trump card. The conditions for its activation were very strict, and once it was triggered, there would be a long wait before the skill could be called upon once more. There was only one reason why the Empire had stayed put until now. They had been waiting resolutely for the day that Rudra could unleash Armageddon again. Now with the threat of Granbell out of the picture, needless to say, Rudra believed that they would be victorious.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to the new members of AnimeKouhai supporters. Saijay Napthik, TYI, Quilly Buckner, This Is Not My Username, Zelda Kid 205, Mizzle Bizzle, Edmond, Zephyrath, Jordan Redman, Bill Rustom Cruz. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.